Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Valiant, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship moved through space at faster than light speed, its engines humming quietly. Jake had been captain for 3 years now, and he loved every moment of it. The Valiant was the newest and strongest ship in the human fleet. The year was 2387. Humans had spread across many star systems, building colonies and space stations. They were not alone in the galaxy. 7 alien races had joined together to form the Vex Empire. These aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. They treated humans badly, but had signed a peace treaty to avoid war. Jake walked over to his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Carter. She was studying readings on her computer screen. Amy was smart and always noticed things others missed. She had short brown hair and wore the blue uniform of the science division. "Any problems, Amy?" Jake asked. "No, sir. All systems are normal. We should reach the outer rim in 6 hours," Amy replied. The outer rim was the edge of human space. Ships patrolled there to watch for alien activity. It was usually boring work, but Jake knew it was important. The Vex Empire had been acting strange lately. Their ships had been spotted near human colonies more often. Chief Engineer Lisa Wong called from across the bridge. "Captain, the quantum drive is working perfectly. We could push it harder if you want to arrive early." Jake shook his head. "No need to rush. Let's stick to the schedule." Lisa nodded and went back to her work. She was the best engineer Jake had ever worked with. She understood the ship's systems better than anyone. The Valiant used new technology that most people did not understand. The quantum drive could move the ship faster than older engines. Communications. Officer Ryan Cole suddenly looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm getting a strange signal. It's very weak and keeps changing." Jake walked over to Ryan's station. The young officer had excellent hearing and could pick up signals that others missed. His equipment showed wavy lines that moved up and down. "What kind of signal?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure, sir. It's not like anything in our database. It might be natural, like from a star or planet, but it seems too organized for that." Jake thought for a moment. Strange signals in space were always worth investigating. "Can you find where it's coming from?" Ryan worked on his computer for several minutes. "Yes, sir. It's about 2 light years away, near the Kepler system. That's still in our patrol area." Jake made his decision. "Set course for the signal. Let's see what we can find." The Valiant changed direction and sped toward the source of the signal. The crew was excited. Patrol missions were usually boring, but this might be interesting. Jake had trained his crew well. They were ready for anything. 3 hours later, the ship dropped out of faster than light speed. They were now moving at normal speed through space. The main view screen showed empty space filled with distant stars. "I don't see anything," said Lieutenant Commander Bob Turner, Jake's second in command. Bob was an experienced officer who had served on many ships. Amy was studying her instruments carefully. "The signal is definitely coming from this area. It's much stronger now." She paused and looked worried. "Captain, I'm detecting something very large about 1,000 kilometers away." "Why can't we see it?" Jake asked. "I think it's using some kind of hiding technology. It's blocking most of our scans." Jake sat down in his captain's chair. Red alert, ray shields and charge weapons. Warning lights flashed red throughout the ship. The crew moved quickly to their battle stations. The Valiant's weapons powered up and its defensive shields activated. "Try to get a visual," Jake ordered. Amy worked at her station. Slowly, an image appeared on the main view screen. The crew gasped. A massive alien ship floated in space in front of them. It was like nothing they had ever seen before. The ship was huge, at least 3 times bigger than the Valiant. Its hull was black, and seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed along its sides. The design was completely alien, not like the ships used by the Vex Empire or any other known race. "It's not moving," Bob reported. "No energy readings from weapons or engines." "Is it damaged?" Jake asked. Amy studied her instruments. "I can't tell. It's blocking most of our scans. But I am detecting some kind of energy deep inside the ship." Jake stared at the alien vessel. In his years as captain, he had never seen anything like it. The ship looked ancient, as if it had been floating in space for thousands of years. "Try to communicate with it," Jake ordered. Ryan sent out signals on all frequencies. He tried every language in the computer database. There was no response. The alien ship remained silent and still. "Sir," Amy said, "the energy readings are getting stronger. Something is happening inside that ship." Jake felt nervous. The situation was becoming dangerous. "Move us back to a safe distance." The Valiant started to retreat, but Amy suddenly called out, "Captain, the energy is spiking." "It's building." "Very fast." "How fast?" Jake asked. "At this rate, it will reach critical levels in 30 seconds. Jake had to make a quick decision. They could run away and report the discovery, or they could try to learn more. As a captain, he knew that information about unknown aliens was very important to Earth security. "Take us closer. I want to know what that ship is doing." Bob looked worried. "Sir, that might not be safe." "I know, but we need to gather data. If this is a new alien race, Earth needs to know about it." The Valiant moved closer to the mysterious ship. Amy watched her instruments carefully. The energy readings kept getting stronger. "Captain, I'm detecting movement inside the alien ship. Something is activating." Suddenly, the symbols on the alien ship's hull began to glow brighter. The black hull started to shimmer and change color. "It's definitely not dead," Lisa said from her engineering station. "That ship is waking up." Jake gripped the arms of his. "Chair. All stations, prepare for anything. Amy, keep scanning. I want to know what we're dealing with." The alien ship began to turn toward the Valiant. It moved slowly, but with purpose. Bright energy started to build up around its hull. "Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking, "the energy readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this." "What kind of energy?" Jake asked. "I don't know. It's not nuclear, plasma, or antimatter. It's something completely different." The alien ship suddenly released a wave of blinding light. The light hit the Valiant's shields and passed right through them. Every screen on the bridge went white. Jake felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. The light seemed to go through him, examining every cell. He heard Amy scream, and Bob shout something he could not understand. The light grew brighter and brighter. Jake tried to give orders, but he could not speak. The light filled his mind and seemed to pull at his very soul. He felt the ship around him changing, becoming something different. Then everything went black. When Jake opened his eyes, he was floating in empty space. The Valiant was gone. The alien ship was gone. There were no stars, no planets, nothing but darkness in every direction. He should have been dead. A human cannot survive in space without a suit. But somehow, he was alive and breathing. He felt different, changed in ways he did not understand. In the distance, he saw a faint light. As he watched, the light grew brighter and began to move toward him. Soon he could see it was the Valiant, but it looked different. The ship glowed with the same strange energy he had seen on the alien vessel. Jake did not know where they were, or what had happened to them. But he knew their mission had changed forever. 5 years had passed since the USS Valiant disappeared. Admiral Helen Brooks stood in the command center on Earth's main space station. looking at reports that made her stomach sick. Another human colony had fallen to the Vex Empire. The aliens were becoming bolder every day. How many survivors? Helen asked her aide, Lieutenant Karen Smith. Less than 1,000, Mom. The Vex took most of the population as slaves. They destroyed everything else. Helen closed her eyes. In the 5 years since Jake Morrison's ship vanished, the galaxy had become a much darker place. The Vex Empire had used the disappearance as an excuse to break the peace treaty. They claimed humans were building secret weapons and could not be trusted. The truth was much simpler. Without Captain Morrison and his crew to testify about what really happened, the Vex had turned the incident into a reason for war. They attacked human colonies one by one, always claiming they were defending themselves. Helen walked to the large window that looked out into space. She could see Earth below, blue and beautiful. But even Earth was not safe anymore. The Vex fleet was getting stronger, while the human fleet grew weaker with each battle. Admiral, Karen said softly, Dr. Paul Martinez is here to see you. He says it's urgent. Helen sighed. Dr. Martinez was a quantum physicist who worked in the Deep Space Research Lab. He was very smart, but also very strange. He often talked about theories that other scientists thought were impossible. Send him in, Helen said. Dr. Martinez entered the room carrying a tablet computer. He was a thin man with wild gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days. Admiral Brooks, I've found something important, he said without greeting her first. What is it, Doctor? Paul showed her the tablet. The screen was filled with numbers and charts that Helen did not understand. I've been studying energy readings from deep space. For the past 6 months, I've detected unusual patterns. Helen looked at the charts. What kind of patterns? Movement. Something very large is moving through space in a way that should be impossible. It's not traveling through normal space. It's moving through dimensions that exist alongside our own. Helen had heard Paul talk about other dimensions before. Most officers thought he was crazy. But Paul had been right about several things in the past, so Helen always listened to him. How large? She asked. Bigger than a planet. Maybe bigger than a star. And it's not alone. There are dozens of these objects, all moving in the same direction. Where are they going? Paul's face became very serious. Here, they're coming to our galaxy. At their current speed, they'll arrive in less than a year. Helen felt cold. Are you sure? I've checked my calculations many times. I'm certain. Paul paused. Admiral, I think these objects might be ships, and I don't think they're friendly. Helen stared at the tablet. The war with the Vex was already going badly. If another alien race was coming to attack, humanity might not survive. Have you told anyone else about this? She asked. I tried. The other scientists say my theories are impossible. The military commanders are too busy fighting the Vex to listen to warnings about unknown threats. Helen made a decision. I want you to keep studying these readings. Tell no one else until we know more. If you're right, we need to prepare. Paul nodded and left the room. Helen stood alone, thinking about the future. The human race was fighting for survival, but they might be facing enemies they did not even know existed. Meanwhile, in a place that was not quite space and not quite time, Captain Jake Morrison was learning to be something more than human. The dimension where the Valiant had been trapped was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The ship floated in a gray void filled with swirling energy. Strange lights moved through the emptiness like living things. The laws of physics worked differently. Here, time moved in circles instead of straight lines. Matter and energy could change into each other with just a thought. Jake had learned to survive in this place, but survival had changed him. His body was still human, but his mind could now touch the energy that filled this dimension. He could see things that were far away and know things he had never learned. Amy Carter had changed too. She could now understand the mathematical principles that controlled this strange dimension. Her knowledge of science had expanded beyond what any human should be able to grasp. The other crew members had also gained new abilities. Lisa Wang could now control matter at the atomic level. Ryan Cole could communicate across vast distances without using any equipment. Bob Turner could see into the future, though only for a few seconds at a time. But the most important thing Jake had learned was that they were not alone in this dimension. Something else lived here, something ancient and hungry. The first time Jake saw one of the creatures, he thought it was a star. It was a ball of pure energy that pulsed with inner light. But when it noticed the Valiant, it moved toward them with intelligence and purpose. "What is that thing?" Amy had asked. Jake watched the creature approach. As it got closer, he could feel its thoughts. It was hungry, always hungry. It fed on life force, consuming entire worlds and leaving nothing behind. "It's a devourer," Jake said, somehow knowing the name without being told. "They eat living things." The creature attacked the Valiant, trying to drain the life from everyone on board. But the ship's quantum drive created a barrier that the devourer could not cross. The creature gave up and moved away, looking for easier prey. Over the years, Jake and his crew had fought many battles with the devourers. They had learned to use the strange physics of this dimension to defend themselves. The Valiant had been changed by the environment, becoming something between a normal ship and a living creature. But Jake had also learned something terrible. The devourers were not just random monsters. They were an army, and they had a plan. They wanted to break through into the normal dimension, where Earth and all the human colonies existed. The ancient alien ship that had brought the Valiant to this place had been a prison. It was designed to keep the devourers trapped in this dimension. But when the Valiant investigated it, they had accidentally damaged the prison's controls. Now the devourers were preparing to invade. Jake had seen their gathering places, vast areas where thousands of the creatures floated together. They were planning something big. Jake stood on the bridge of the transformed Valiant, watching the energy patterns that filled this dimension. His ship could survive here, but he knew his home dimension was not prepared for what was coming. "Captain," Amy said, "I'm detecting increased activity in the devourer fleets. They're organizing for something major." Jake nodded. He had felt it too. The creatures were getting ready to attack. "How long do we have?" "Based on their movement patterns, I'd say a few months at most." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "We have to warn them. We have to get back to our dimension and tell them what's coming." "Is that possible?" Bob asked. Jake looked at his transformed crew. They were no longer fully human, but they were still his responsibility. The aliens who built that prison ship found a way to travel between dimensions. "We've learned to use their technology. We can get home." "But sir," Lisa said, "if we leave this dimension, the devourers will follow us. We'll be leading them right to Earth." Jake stared out at the swirling energy that surrounded them. "They're coming anyway. At least if we go back, we can warn everyone and help them prepare." Amy worked at her station, which was now a mix of human technology and alien energy systems. "I can create a dimensional rift, but it will take time. And once we open it, we won't be able to close it from this side." "How long?" Jake asked. 6 hours to prepare. After that, we'll have maybe 10 minutes to get through before the devourers notice what we're doing." Jake looked at his crew. They had survived 5 years in this impossible place. They had become something new, something that could fight creatures made of pure energy. But they were still human at heart, and they still cared about the people they had left behind. "Do it," Jake said. "It's time to go home." As Amy began her work, Jake thought about Admiral Brooks and the human fleet. They were fighting a war against the Vex Empire, not knowing that a much greater threat was coming. The Devourers would destroy everything in their path, alien and human alike. But Jake and his crew were no longer the same people who had left Earth 5 years ago. They had become something that could stand against the Devourers. The question was whether they could convince their own people to trust them. The Valiant began to glow with dimensional energy as Amy prepared to tear a hole between worlds. Jake hoped they would arrive in time to make a difference. The fate of the galaxy depended on it. The space around the human colony of New Haven suddenly lit up with brilliant light. Energy crackled and twisted as reality itself seemed to tear open. Then, like a ghost returning from the dead, the USS Valiant appeared. But this was not the same ship that had disappeared 5 years ago. The Valiant now glowed with strange energy that pulsed along its hull. Its weapons looked different, more powerful. Even its shape had changed slightly, becoming more streamlined, and alien Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at the stars he had not seen for 5 years. Everything looked the same, but he knew he and his crew had changed beyond recognition. They were no longer fully human, though they still remembered what it meant to be human. "Amy, can you contact the colony?" Jake asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter worked at her station, which was now a mix of human technology and alien energy systems. Her fingers moved across controls that seemed to respond to her thoughts as much as her touch. "Yes, sir. I'm getting a response from New Haven Control. They're asking us to identify ourselves." Jake took a deep breath. He knew this moment would be difficult. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Valiant. We've returned from a long mission and need to speak with Admiral Brooks immediately." There was a long pause. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. "Captain Morrison? Sir, your ship was reported missing 5 years ago. We thought you were dead." "We're very much alive," Jake replied. "Please contact Admiral Brooks. Tell her we have urgent information about a threat to the entire galaxy." Amy looked at her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting Vex ships approaching. 3 heavy cruisers and a destroyer." Jake had expected this. The Vex Empire had been attacking human colonies for years. They would see the Valiant's return as either a threat or an opportunity. "Battle stations," Jake ordered. The crew moved quickly to their positions. But their movements were different now. They seemed to flow like water, perfectly coordinated. Chief Engineer Lisa Wang touched a control panel, and the ship's weapons powered up instantly. "The Vex ships are demanding we surrender," Ryan Cole reported. "They're saying we're trespassing in their territory." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. New Haven was a human colony, built by human hands. The Vex had no right to claim it. "Tell them to leave. This is human space." "They're not listening, sir. They're powering weapons." Jake looked at his crew. They had fought creatures made of pure energy for 5 years. Vex ships, no matter how powerful, were just machines. Amy scanned their lead ship, find their main reactor. Amy's eyes seemed to glow as she used her enhanced abilities. "Found it. Sir, the reactor is heavily shielded, but I can detect weak points." "Lisa, can you disrupt their power systems?" Lisa smiled. Her hands moved over her controls, but Jake could see she was also reaching out with her mind, touching the energy patterns. "That flowed through space. Consider it done, Captain." The Vex ships suddenly lost power. Their weapons went dark, and their engines stopped working. The alien vessels drifted helplessly in space. "Impossible," Ryan said, reading the Vex communications. "They're saying their entire fleet just lost power simultaneously." Jake felt a moment of satisfaction. The Vex had bullied humanity for years, thinking they were superior. Now they were getting a taste of what humans could become. Restore their life support only, Jake ordered. Let them drift. We have more important things to do. The Valiant moved away from the disabled Vex ships and approached New Haven Colony. Jake could see the settlement on the planet's surface, a small city surrounded by farms and factories. It looked peaceful, but Jake knew it was in terrible danger. Admiral, Brooks is requesting a video conference, Amy reported. Put her on screen. The main view screen showed Admiral Helen Brooks in her command center. She looked older than Jake remembered, with gray hair and tired eyes. The war with the Vex had been hard on everyone. Jake, she said, her voice filled with emotion. We thought you were dead. Where have you been? It's complicated, Admiral. We were trapped in another dimension, fighting creatures that want to destroy our galaxy. They're called Devourers, and they're coming here. Helen's expression became serious. What kind of creatures? They're made of pure energy. They feed on life force, consuming entire worlds. We've been fighting them for 5 years, learning how to survive in their dimension. And now they're coming here? Jake nodded. The alien ship that transported us was actually a prison. We accidentally damaged it, and now the Devourers are free to invade our dimension. Helen was quiet for a moment. Jake, you look different. Your entire crew looks different. What happened to you? Jake had expected this question. The dimension where we were trapped changed us. We gained new abilities, ways to fight the Devourers. We're still human, but we're also something more. What kind of abilities? Amy stepped forward. We can manipulate energy directly, communicate across vast distances, and understand alien technology instantly. The ship has been changed too. It's now powered by dimensional energy. Helen looked skeptical. This is hard to believe. Do you have proof? Jake made a decision. Amy, show her the colony's power grid. Amy's eyes glowed softly. Suddenly, every light in New Haven Colony began to pulse in perfect rhythm. The pattern spelled out a message in light. We are here to help. Helen's eyes widened. How did you do that? We've learned to touch the energy that flows through everything, Jake explained. But Admiral, we don't have time for long explanations. The Devourers will arrive soon, and when they do, they'll destroy everything. How soon? Days, maybe weeks. We need to prepare. The Vex Empire is in as much danger as we are. These creatures don't care about politics or treaties. They just want to consume. Helen thought for a moment. The Vex won't listen to warnings. From us, they think we're their enemies. Then we'll have to make them listen, Jake said. Amy, can you locate the nearest Vex fleet? Amy worked at her station. Yes, sir. A battle group is 3 light-years away, heading toward the Centauri. System. Set course to intercept them. Jake, Helen said, what are you planning? We're going to demonstrate our new capabilities. When the Vex see what we can do, they'll understand we're not the same humans they've been fighting. The Valiant left New Haven and jumped to faster-than-light speed. The ship moved differently now, sliding through space like a living thing. In less than an hour, they found the Vex battle group. The alien fleet was massive. 20 heavy cruisers surrounded a command ship that was twice the size of the Valiant. These were the ships that had been terrorizing human colonies for years. They're scanning us, Ryan reported. The fleet commander is demanding we surrender. Jake stood up, opened a channel to all ships in the fleet. The view screen showed the bridge of the Vex command ship. The alien commander was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin like gray metal. His name was General Crix, and Jake had read reports about his attacks on human colonies. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately, Crix said in his mechanical voice. General Crix, Jake replied. I'm Captain Morrison of the USS Valiant. I have information about a threat to your empire. Crix laughed, a sound like grinding metal. The only threat to the Empire is the human race. Your pathetic species will be extinct soon. Jake felt his anger rise. You're wrong. Something much worse is coming, and it will destroy your ships as easily as ours. Prove it, Crix said. Jake looked at his crew. They nodded, understanding what he wanted to do. Lisa, disable their weapons. Amy, take control of their navigation systems. Ryan, patch me into their communications. The crew worked together, their enhanced abilities reaching out across space. Suddenly, every ship in the Vex fleet lost power to their weapons. Their navigation systems began following commands from the Valiant. What sorcery is this? Crix demanded. This is what humans become when we're pushed to our limits, Jake replied. We've learned to fight creatures made of pure energy. Your ships are just machines. Jake made the Vex fleet perform a complex dance in space, their ships moving in perfect formation despite their crew's attempts to regain control. Then he restored their systems and stepped back. The creatures coming to destroy us are 1,000 times more powerful than what we just demonstrated, Jake said. They're called Devourers, and they're already on their way. We can teach you to fight them, but only if you're willing to learn. Crix stared at the screen, his forearms trembling with rage and fear. What do you want? A ceasefire. Combined human and Vex forces. And most importantly, access to your dimensional research. We know your scientists have been studying other dimensions. Impossible. The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. Jake sighed. Then your Empire will die. The Devourers are coming, whether you believe it or not. We've seen what they can do. They'll consume your worlds and leave nothing behind. Before Crix could respond, Amy suddenly looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting dimensional rifts opening throughout the sector. Something's coming through. Jake felt his blood turn cold. How many? Dozens. They're small, probably scout ships. The view screen changed to show space around the Vex fleet. Reality was tearing open in multiple places, and through each rift came a ball of pure energy. The Devourers had found them. All ships raised shields. Jake ordered, but the Vex shields were useless. The energy beings passed right through them and began draining power from the alien vessels. One by one, the Devourer scouts retreated through their dimensional rifts, but Jake Morrison knew they would return with a much larger force. He stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the Vex fleet try to repair their damaged ships. The energy beings had drained power from every vessel, leaving them helpless. General Crix appeared on the view screen, his forearms shaking with rage and fear. Human, what were those things? The advanced scouts of the Devourer fleet, Jake replied. They're reporting back to their commanders right now. The main invasion will begin within hours. How do we fight them? Jake looked at his crew. Amy Carter was monitoring dimensional readings, her enhanced abilities allowing her to see patterns that normal instruments could not detect. Lisa Wang was studying the energy signatures left by the Devourers. Ryan Cole was trying to track their movements through other dimensions. We can teach you, Jake said to Crix. But your people will have to change, just like we did. Change how? The dimension where we were trapped for 5 years taught us to use energy in new ways. We can share this knowledge, but the process is dangerous. Some of your people might not survive. Crix was quiet for a long moment. Jake could see the alien commander struggling with his pride. The Vex Empire had always believed they were superior to all other races. Now they were being forced to ask humans for help. What do you need from us? Crix finally asked. Access to your dimensional research. Your scientists have been studying other dimensions for decades. We need their knowledge to prepare for the invasion. And in return, we'll teach your people to fight the Devourers. We'll share our technology and help you upgrade your ships. Crix made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. Agreed. But if this is a human trick, I will personally destroy every human colony in the galaxy. General, Jake said seriously, if this is a trick, there won't be any colonies left to destroy. Over the next several hours, Jake and his crew worked, with Vex scientists to prepare for the invasion. The aliens were amazed by the changes in the human crew. Amy could understand their most complex dimensional equations instantly. Lisa could improve their technology just by touching it. Dr. Zara Vex, the Empire's chief scientist, worked directly with Amy. She was different from the military commanders, more interested in knowledge than conquest. Your understanding of dimensional physics is extraordinary, Dr. Vex told Amy. How did you learn so much? We had to learn to survive, Amy replied. The Devourers forced us to understand energy in ways that should be impossible. Can you teach others? Amy nodded. But it's not easy. The person has to be willing to change, to become something more than they were. Many humans would refuse, and many Vex will refuse as well, Dr. Vex said. My people are proud. They don't like admitting they need help. As they worked, Jake received reports from across the galaxy. Dimensional rifts were opening near major population centers. The Devourers were beginning their invasion, and they were targeting the most populated worlds first. Admiral Brooks is requesting immediate assistance, Ryan reported. Earth is under attack. Jake felt his heart sink. Earth was humanity's home world, the planet where his species had been born. If the Devourers consumed it, human civilization would never recover. How long until we can get there? Jake asked. At maximum speed, 6 hours, Amy replied. Too long. By then, Earth might be gone. Jake made a difficult decision. We need to split up. Amy, Lisa, and Ryan will stay here too. Help the Vex prepare. Bob and I will take a small team to Earth. How? Lisa asked. The Valiant can't be in 2 places at once. Jake smiled grimly. We'll use the dimensional technology. Amy, can you create a temporary portal? Amy studied her instruments. It's possible, but dangerous. The portal will only last a few minutes, and you'll need a way to get back. We'll figure that out later. Right now, Earth needs us. Amy began working on the portal while Jake gathered a small team. He selected 10 of his best people, all of whom had been changed by their time in the other dimension. They would have. To be enough, the portal opened in the Valiant's hangar bay, a swirling vortex of energy that led directly to Earth orbit. Jake and his team climbed into a small shuttle that had been modified with dimensional technology. Good luck, Captain, Amy said. Take care of things here, Jake replied. And remember, the Vex are allies now. Protect them as you would protect humans. The shuttle flew into the portal and disappeared. Jake felt reality twist around him as they traveled through dimensions. Then they emerged in Earth orbit, and Jake saw a sight that made his blood run cold. Hundreds of Devourers surrounded Earth, their energy forms pulsing with hunger. They were draining the planet's electromagnetic field, causing massive storms and power failures across the surface. The human defense fleet was fighting desperately, but their weapons were useless against the energy beings. This is Captain Morrison. Jake broadcast to all human ships. We're here to help. Admiral Brooks responded immediately. Jake, thank God, we can't hurt these things. Our weapons pass right through them. That's because they're made of pure energy. You need dimensional weapons to fight them. Jake's shuttle approached the nearest Devourer, a massive being that was feeding on Earth's moon. The creature was so large it could have swallowed the Valiant whole. Fire dimensional torpedoes, Jake ordered. His weapons officer, Sergeant Pete Davis, had been changed by their time in the other dimension. He could now target energy beings by feeling their presence rather than seeing them. The torpedoes struck the Devourer, and it screamed in pain. The creature turned toward the shuttle, angry and confused. It had never been hurt before. Jake felt the Devourer's thoughts pressing against his mind, filled with rage and hunger. "All human ships follow our lead," Jake broadcast. "Target the energy beings exactly where we fire." Jake's team worked quickly, using their enhanced abilities to guide the human fleet. They could see the weak points in each Devourer, the places where their energy was most concentrated. The human ships fired where Jake's people told them to, and slowly the energy beings began to retreat, but there were too many Devourers and not enough ships. For every creature they drove away, 2 more took its place. Earth was still in terrible danger. "Captain," Pete said, "I'm detecting something massive coming through a dimensional rift near Jupiter." Jake looked at his instruments and felt despair. A Devourer mothership was emerging from the rift, so large it dwarfed even Jupiter itself. This creature could consume entire star systems. "All ships fall back to Earth orbit," Jake ordered. "Protect the planet as long as possible." But as the human fleet retreated, something unexpected happened. Dimensional rifts began opening throughout the solar system, and Vex ships emerged. General Crix had brought his entire fleet to help defend Earth. "Human Morrison," Crix's voice came through the communications, "we have learned your dimensional weapons technology. Dr. Vex has upgraded our ships." The Vex fleet was different now. Their ships glowed with the same energy that powered the Valiant. Their weapons fired dimensional energy that could actually hurt the Devourers. "Thank you, General," Jake said. "But even with your help, we can't stop that mothership." Crix looked at the massive creature approaching Earth. "Then we will die fighting. The Vex Empire does not surrender." Jake felt a surge of respect for the alien commander. A few days ago, they had been enemies. Now they were fighting together to save both their peoples. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Human and Vex ships fought side by side against creatures made of pure energy. The space around Earth lit up with dimensional weapons fire and energy blasts from the Devourers. Many ships were destroyed, their crews consumed by the hungry energy beings. But for every ship lost, the crews of other vessels became more determined. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their entire way of life. Jake coordinated the battle from his shuttle, using his enhanced abilities to guide both human and Vex forces. He could feel the Devourers' confusion as their easy conquest turned into a real fight. But the mothership kept approaching Earth, and Jake knew that once it reached the planet, nothing could save humanity's home world. The creature was simply too large and too powerful. "Captain," Pete said, "I have an idea. What if we could turn the Earth's electromagnetic field into a weapon?" Jake looked at his weapons officer. "Explain." "The planet generates a massive magnetic field. If we could reverse its polarity and channel it through dimensional space, it might be enough to hurt the mothership. That would require incredible precision. We'd have to coordinate with every power plant on Earth." "Dr. Martinez is still on the planet," Pete reminded him. "He understands dimensional physics better than anyone except Amy." Jake contacted Dr. Paul Martinez, who was in a bunker beneath the research station. The scientist was frightened, but eager to help. "Doctor, we need you to reverse Earth's magnetic field and channel it through dimensional space. Can it be done?" Paul was quiet for a moment. "Theoretically, yes. But it would require every power plant on the planet to work together, and the timing would have to be perfect." "How long do you need?" 20 minutes to coordinate with all the power plants. Then we'll have one chance. If it doesn't work, the planet's magnetic field will collapse permanently." Jake looked at the approaching mothership. "Do it. We'll buy you the time you need." The human Anne. 3 months after the battle for Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the conference room aboard the newly built space station, Unity. The station orbited Earth and served as headquarters for the combined human and Vex defense fleet. Representatives from both species worked together, planning for a future neither could have imagined. Admiral Helen Brooks sat at one end of the long table, looking healthier than she had in years. The victory over the Devourers had given humanity new hope. General Crix sat across from her, his forearms moving as he studied star charts. The alien commander had become Jake's closest ally. The dimensional rifts are still appearing, Dr. Amy Carter reported. She had returned from the Vex research stations, where she had been teaching alien scientists about dimensional physics. But they're smaller now, and the Devourers that come through are weaker. Why? Admiral Brooks asked. We think destroying the mothership damaged their ability to coordinate, Amy explained. They're still dangerous, but they're not organized anymore. Jake looked at the star charts spread across the table. Red marks showed where Devourer attacks had occurred in the past month. The attacks were random and scattered across the galaxy. We need to be ready for anything, Jake said. The Devourers might reorganize, or we might face other threats from beyond our dimension. Dr. Zara Vex, the chief scientist of the Vex Empire, had worked closely with Amy to understand dimensional technology. We've made great progress upgrading our fleets. Half of all human and Vex ships now have dimensional weapons. What about the crews? General Crix asked. This was the difficult part. The dimensional enhancement process that had changed Jake and his crew was dangerous. Many volunteers had died attempting the transformation, but those who survived gained abilities that made them incredibly effective against dimensional threats. We have 300 enhanced humans and 200 enhanced Vex, Jake reported. They're spread across the fleet, training others and leading defensive missions. Chief Engineer Lisa Wong entered the conference room, carrying a tablet with new technical specifications. Captain, I've finished the designs for the new dimensional drive system. Ships equipped with these drives will be able to travel between dimensions safely. Jake studied the designs. How long to build the first prototype? 6 months, if we have full cooperation from both human and Vex shipyards. Make it happen, Admiral Brooks said. We need every advantage we can get. As the meeting continued, Jake thought about how much had changed. 3 months ago, humans and Vex had been bitter enemies. Now they worked together as partners, sharing technology and knowledge. The Devourer invasion had taught both species that survival required cooperation. But Jake knew the real test was still coming. Reports from deep space monitoring stations showed massive energy signatures moving through distant dimensions. Something big was heading toward their galaxy, and it was much larger than the Devourer mothership they had destroyed. There's something else we need to discuss, Jake said, interrupting the technical conversation. Amy, show them the deep space readings. Amy activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy and the dimensions surrounding it. Massive objects moved through the dimensional space, heading directly toward them. What are those? General Crix asked. We're not sure, Amy replied. They're too far away to scan properly. But based on their energy signatures, they're enormous. Each one is at least as large as the Devourer mothership. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They had barely survived the first invasion. If something even larger was coming, they might not be so lucky next time. How long until they arrive? Admiral Brooks asked. Based on their current speed, about 2 years. Amy said. Jake stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. He could see Earth below, blue and beautiful and alive. Millions of people lived on that world, going about their daily lives, unaware of the threats that lurked in other dimensions. We need to be ready, Jake said. 2 years isn't much time to prepare for a threat this large. What do you propose? General Crix asked. Jake turned back to the group. We expand the alliance. There are other species in this galaxy besides humans and Vex. We need to unite them all. The Zephyrian Republic might listen, Dr. Vex suggested. They've always been peaceful and scientific. The Titan Confederacy has a strong military, Admiral Brooks added. If we can convince them of the threat, they might join us. Jake nodded. We'll need everyone. Send diplomatic teams to every major civilization in the galaxy. Show them what happened to Earth and the Vex worlds. Make them understand that we're all in this together. Over the following months, Jake and his crew traveled throughout the galaxy, meeting with alien leaders and demonstrating the reality of the dimensional threat. Some species joined the alliance immediately, frightened by reports of the Devourer. Attacks. Others took more convincing. The Crystalline Collective was a race of silicon-based life forms that lived on asteroids. They had existed for millions of years and considered themselves above the concerns of younger races. But when Jake showed them recordings of Devourers consuming energy directly from matter, the Collective's leaders realized that even they were vulnerable. The Aquatic Federation controlled dozens of ocean worlds. Their leaders were suspicious of land-based species and rarely interacted with outsiders. But Amy Carter's ability to communicate through pure energy patterns allowed her to speak directly to their minds, convincing them that the threat was real. Most difficult species to convince were the machine intelligences, artificial beings who had long ago replaced their organic creators. They believed that energy-based life forms like the Devourers could not harm them. It took a direct demonstration, with Jake's team using dimensional energy to shut down one of their cities, to make them understand their vulnerability. One by one, the great civilizations of the galaxy joined the alliance. Ships from dozens of worlds began arriving at Unity Station, bringing new technologies and ideas. The station was expanded multiple times to accommodate representatives from so many different species. Lisa Wong worked with engineers from across the galaxy to design new defensive systems. The Crystalline Collective provided materials that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The machine intelligences contributed processing power that could calculate dimensional mathematics in real time. The Aquatic Federation shared techniques for manipulating energy currents. But Jake knew that technology alone would not be enough. The Alliance needed people who could fight the dimensional entities directly. The enhancement process that had changed his crew was refined and made safer, but it still required volunteers willing to risk their lives. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy underwent the transformation. Some died in the process, but those who survived gained incredible abilities. They could see across dimensions, manipulate energy with their thoughts, and fight creatures that existed beyond normal reality. As the second year of preparation neared its end, the deep space monitoring stations detected the approaching entities more clearly. They were not ships or creatures, but something far worse. They were dimensional storms, tears in reality itself that would unmake everything they touched. It's not an invasion, Amy reported during the final planning meeting. It's the collapse of dimensional barriers. These storms will destroy the boundary between our reality and the dimension where the Devourers live. Jake felt cold. What does that mean? It means our entire galaxy will be pulled into the Devourer dimension. Every world, every star, every living thing will be exposed to creatures made of pure hunger. General Crix spoke for everyone in the room. How do we stop something like that? Amy looked at her calculations. We can't stop it, but we might be able to redirect it. Explain, Admiral Brooks said. If we create a dimensional anchor using the combined energy of every enhanced being in the Alliance, we might be able to hold our galaxy in normal space while the storm passes around us. What would that require? Jake asked. Amy's face was grave. Every enhanced person in the galaxy would have to link their consciousness together and channel their energy simultaneously. It would require perfect coordination across thousands of light years. And if it doesn't work, then reality ceases to exist and the Devourers win permanently. Jake looked around the room at the representatives of dozens of species. A few months ago, many of them had been enemies. Now they were humanity's greatest hope for survival. "How long do we have to prepare?" he asked. "The storms will arrive in 6 days," Amy replied. "The next 6 days were the busiest in galactic history. Enhanced beings traveled to predetermined positions throughout the galaxy, creating a network of consciousness that spanned billions of miles. Ships equipped with dimensional drives served as communication links, allowing the network to coordinate their efforts. Jake positioned himself aboard the Valiant at the center of the galaxy, where the dimensional anchor would be strongest. Amy and the other enhanced crew members spread throughout the ship, preparing to link their minds with thousands of others. As the dimensional storms approached, reality began to waver. Stars flickered in and out of existence. Planets shifted between dimensions. The boundary between normal space and the Devourer realm grew thin. "All stations report ready," Ryan Cole announced. His enhanced ability